We're learning the mimer in Torah Ohr. Torah Ohr. From the first Rebbe of Chabad. And as we finished, we're on the last paragraph actually. We didn't finish the whole thing. Vihine, see? We didn't do that Vihine. On page Tesvav. Right. Okay, what are we talking about? This is a very, if you want to call it a very touchy subject. Very touchy subject. We're talking about Abraham and God and the people of Sodom and Amorah, as they call it in English, Sodom and Gomorrah. And the people of Sodom and Amorah were really very evil people. They were very sadistic. And God says, I will go down. Irdana. I'm going to go down and see what the cries that are coming up to me from the city. They were torturing people. People were the victims were screaming out, and God said, "I'm going to go down." Written in the Bible, I am going to go down and see if the cries down there are what they are, and according to that, I'm going to react. God says, I'm going to go down and I'm going to react. So the Rebbe asked a question, 1 minute. This is the opposite of the message of Judaism. The message of Judaism is that everything is already known in front of God. God knows what's happening and He knows what's going to happen. By God, there's no past, present, or future. What does it mean God says, I'm going to go down to see it? Seems to imply that the simple narrative of the Bible, that the world is something separate and God is something separate, and God doesn't really always know what's going on in the world, and He has to sort of go down to see, because, why doesn't God know what's going on in the world? Because the world is so insignificant and it's so low, and it's just this sort of ray or whatever of godliness. The whole thing is like a big fake, alma de shikra, like they say. So God doesn't, the world is not important, absolutely, it's not important. So for sure it's not important to God, who creates the world. But Chassidus says exactly the opposite. Chassidus wants to come and teach us a lesson. No, the world, this physical world is more important than all the spiritual worlds that there are. And only here can we see the real truth. What's the real truth? Like we've said so many times, but it's impossible to comprehend. We can say it a million times, but to comprehend it, it's impossible to comprehend. That God is creating everything constantly, and He cares about everything constantly, and He especially cares about people, and He especially cares about the Jews, and that God is aware of all being, and etc. So what that's against what the Bible says. Here the Bible says God is saying, I have to go down to see. That's the opposite of our message. And where do we get this message from anyway? Where do we get this idea that, God is one, there's nothing outside of God, and where do we get? So the Rebbe says, well, if you look in this book, the Kabbalistic books, and that's the only way to really sort of understand this, and even then, it can be misunderstood. Because it's totally against our common sense. Right? That God is everywhere and He creates everything and we're really nothing. What do you mean we're really nothing? Here I'm something. So, it explains according to the Pardes that there's this book called the Pardes, Kabbalistic book, that there's a lot of different aspects of God. And one of these aspects, another name of them is called God's Sphirot, or in English, I guess you'd call it spheres or aspects of God. And it's by means of these various aspects of God that we can understand that there's this thing of reward and punishment, and that God cares and that He doesn't care, and that there's mercy and God can forgive, and God can get angry, and etc. Because that's all of God's aspects. That's what's called the lower awareness of God. The lower awareness of God, das tachton. But then there's also what's called das elyon. There's the upper awareness of God, which another Kabbalistic name for that is sovev kolamim, that God surrounds and defies all limitation. And in that aspect of God, everything is known automatically. Do you remember this, Herschel? Yeah. So one aspect of God is what's called the upper awareness of God, is that God knows everything automatically. It's totally incomprehensible. Totally, it's not even in the realm of comprehension. It's like trying to see sounds or something, or to grab ideas with your hand. And it's not the proper vessel. Your understanding is not the proper vessel to even approach God. That's this upper aspect of God, and from there comes all forgiveness, because nothing we do has really any effect on God. God knows it, but it doesn't have any effect, so to speak, on Him. And therefore He can forgive everything. We'll learn in Chassidut that some good deeds do have an effect in that later, but prayer is also. Remember we learned about prayer and blessing. Remember the difference?
We say that one of the basic tenets of Chassidism is that our prayers, that we can affect Hashem.
Right. Listen, a tenet of Chassidus, Chassidus, like the first Rebbe of Chabad, he called his book the Tanya. There were several names of it. It's called the book of the Sefer the Beinoni, but another name of it is called Likuti Amorim. Likuti Amorim. Interesting. The book has three names to it, and it's known by all three names. It's called Sefer Shel Beinoni, and it's called Tanya, and it's called Likuti Amorim. Likuti Amorim means that the Rebbe did not have anything original. He just gathered ideas and facts that are known from all over, and he just put them together in a coherent way that will bring us to serve God better, more love of God, more love of every Jew, more love of God's creation, more love of the Torah. So it's a gathering together. So Chassidut just revealed facts that exist. These are not, the fact is that God creates everything. If you look in the beginning of the Rambam, which the Rambam is a law book, the Rambam says almost explicitly this, that the only real existence is God, and all other existences just come from His true existence. And if nothing exists in the world, it would have no effect on God. God's existence is a real existence, and the rest of the world is a created existence, etc. He says it, but he doesn't say it in the language of Kabbalah or Chassidut. Okay, so this is what we learned yesterday. That what does it mean that God says, I will go down? It means I will go down from this level of pure mercy where nothing bad in the world has any effect on me. And I'm going to go down to the world of judgment where everything in the world does have an effect on me, even the bad things, and I'm going to punish people, and there's not going to be any mercy involved over here. And that's why Abraham tries to arouse his mercy. Maybe there's 50 people. It was the Sodom and Gomorrah was like a sort of a conglomeration of 5 big metropolises, 5 big cities. Sodom and Gomorrah, as I understand, were only 2 of them. And so Abraham said, listen, maybe there's 10 righteous people in every city. Maybe there's only 9 in every city. Right? And he kept trying to deal with God that maybe there was some way he could save these cities, and he didn't make it. But that's what it means, I will go down. God is saying, I'm going down from my upper awareness where nothing bad has an effect on me, down to the lower awareness where I am affected, into what's called the vessels or the sphirot, the vessels of the sphirot, and etc. And then that's what God was saying. Okay, let's go. Ready? Hine. Bezoar. Meanwhile, we're getting acquainted a little bit with God over here. God's personality, his spheres of activity, a little bit about how totally incomprehensible God is. Now you should know this idea of these 10 sfirot of God, that's also totally incomprehensible. The sfirot of God are infinite. Chacham below b'chachma yadiyah. See, God is wise with it's not any sort of a wisdom we can understand. Okay, so let's see. Hine bezoar in the Chabad Mishpatim Taf Kuf Zayin. The Chabad Mishpatim. What's the Chabad Mishpatim? Okay, you with me, Herschel? The Zohar is just a midrash. The Zohar is a midrash that explains the Chumash. Once in a while, he explains it in a Kabbalistic way. Right. So then there's certain chapters where are totally Kabbalistic. In the portion of Mishpatim, one of the portions, readings of the Torah, one of the chapters of the Torah, called Mishpatim, and that's the whole secret over there. It reveals the whole secret of reincarnation. How there is reincarnations and souls. Okay. Anyway, one of the things that it says over there, it explains there's two apparent contradictions. One of them, it says that the eyes of God, mishotatot, the eyes of God, they wander around the world. We talked about this before. They wander around the world, but it's feminine. Mishotatot is feminine. Inan nukvin, these are feminine eyes of God. Umashikatuv hema mishotatim, and when it says that the eyes of God, they wander around, they observe, it says in masculine, mishotatim. Ilan dechurin, these are masculine eyes. What's masculine eyes and what's feminine eyes? V'keinu b'zohar, and so it also says in the Zohar and another place in the Zohar. In Parshas Vayechi, Daf Reish Mem Aleph, Sif Ayin Aleph, I guess. The Pirush Mishotatim, that when it says that the eyes of God are wandering, masculine eyes, Hem Betikune Shechinta Letata'a. These are in the aspect of the Shekhinah below. Hainu ki yesh malachim. Okay, now let's explain this. We just explained a little bit of this Kabbalah stuff in the Zohar. There are angels, she'em mizer anpin, that they come from what's called God's small faces, and God's small faces is another name. An acronym, is that what it's called? No, it's not. No, an acronym is like initials, right? Yeah. But the Zer Anpin. Oh, this actually is, but this stands for Zer Anpin, small faces, which is another way of saying God's emotions. V'yesh malachim, and there are angels, she'em mimalchut, that come from God's malchut, from God's kingship. Okay, let's explain this a little bit. We talked about this before, that there is 10 aspects of God's personality. In fact, there's 10 aspects of everything that exists in the world can be analyzed or divided in these 10 different aspects. In the Tanya, the 3rd chapter of the Tanya, it talks about it, God's personality and what it means we are made in God's image, that we also have the same makeup of 10. It's called the 10 spheres. In Hebrew, it's called the 10 sfirot. 3 of them are intellect, 6 of them are emotions, and 1 of them is action. 3 of them are intellect, chachma, bina, and dat. That's Chabad. Intellect means conception, having a concept, an idea. Bina, understanding it. And dat, the ability to make it, to bring it into reality. Dat means the ability to make it emotional. Dat, chachma, bina, v'dat. Then there's the emotions. The emotions are chesed, gavura, tiferet, netzach, hod yesod. Love, fear, balance, I want to call it victory, surrender, and connection. These are aspects of people's personalities and also aspects of God's personality. And finally, there's what's called Malchut, which is action or speech. In other words, coming outside of you. Outside of you. Okay, now, that's with us. What about God? God also has the same thing. God has kindness, severity, limitation, balance, all these things God has. From these different aspects of God are created all the worlds, and also are created a level which is below the worlds, which is called the angels. There's the Sfirot and there's the angels. What are these angels? These angels, there's different types of angels. There's some angels which come from God's emotions, and there's some angels which come from God's action. Action. All right. This aspect, sphere of God, which is called Malchut, God's kingship, that's the lowest of God's aspects. That's the lowest. A king, like a king, right? A king, they have a king who knows what, a King Alexander, right? A king. He's a king. So when he's a king, he has his personality, he has his intellect, he has his emotions, and this. But when he's a king, he's a different person. A different person. He's a king. All of a sudden now he has to rule over the people. He's a big boss. He's a big shot. He's the highest of anybody in the kingdom, right? But ideally, what is supposed to be a king? A king is supposed to be the lowest aspect of the spirit of the country. He represents, let's take this example of Russia. What is the good of Russia? That's all that's on his mind, right? King Alexander, it's supposed to be, what is the good of Russia? That's all he's thinking about. He has no personal life when he's a king. When he's a king, he's the lowest of the low. He has no personal life. All he's thinking about is one thing: how can I benefit the country? How can I benefit the people? In order to do this, he has to rule over everybody. So in relation to the people, he's the highest. But in relation to his ideals and his values, he's the lowest in the country. No one in the country is devoted to Russia like King Alexander. That's what it's supposed to be, like a king. Right? Lahavdil. Let's take a good example. It's a terrible example because these were terrible people. Like Reb Mendel Futafas said, that when the king was killed, Nikolai, the Bolsheviks, they killed him. Said all the Chassidim were sad. He says, why were they sad? Because they lost a good example. In the Chassidus, you learn about what a king is. I asked Rabbi Mendel Futafas, I said, he was really a good example. He said, no, he was a disgusting, low person. It was a terrible, but it was the best there was. There was no other example of a king in the world. Good. He was a king. So that's the idea of a king. A king is supposed to be, ideally, let's take the ideal king, King David. King David, he was the lowest person in the world. He was totally devoted to God. He had no personality of his own. Everything he did, everything he said, everything he thought, everything he felt, everything he knew, his all awareness, everything was only devoted to Hashem. Every second of his life was pure devotion, a servitude to God. No one in the country was like that. Everybody in the country had their own personality, their own personal lives, their own this. It came out that part of King David's surrender to God was their own personal lives, and he had wives, and he had this, and he had to fight battles. But none of it was from his own volition. Like Moses said, "V'anachnu ma." Moses said, who are we? Okay, so there are some angels that they come from this aspect of Malchut. Malchut is like the earth. Another good example. The earth. Everything comes from the earth, but the earth is the lowest. Everyone tramples on it. The earth has nothing of its own. It receives water, it receives sunlight, it receives the seeds, it receives everything on its own. It can't do anything. That's Malchut. That's this lowest aspect. Like is written in Rabbi Chaim Vital. Ayin Mashkadu, look what it says in the Zohar, Reish Parasha Shmos, Daf, page Ayin Aleph, in the inyan of Ish Ubeito Bo. Okay, look over there, you'll see. V'zeh Lashano. This is what it says over in the Zohar. Zelashano. I don't know what Nun base means. I think the Nun base means Niri B'enai. Niri B'enai, anyway, Teferet U'Malchut. Ratzil Omar, what it means to say, there are angels that come from Zer Anpin, and there are angels that come from this level of Malchut. Ad Kan Lashono, this is what it says in a book called Mikdash Melech. Mikdash Melech Sham over there. He's one of the explainers of the Zohar. V'malachim, and the angels, shehem b'tikkunei shechina, this is the level of malchut of atzilut. And these are called nukvin. These are called feminine angels. Ukamo shekatuv sham in the Zohar, daf reish mem zayin amud aleph. What it means, benot sa'ada lemehavi alai shur, that they are on this level of shur. Shur means to look. Benot sa'ada, these are the feminine aspect. These are the women that looked at Yosef. This is, now remember, the Torah is written by God. So everything that's written in the Torah has, in addition to a simple meaning, has also a deeper meaning. So this is when it says that the women, they looked at Yosef, the women, these women, this is an aspect of godliness that goes up from below to above. Tzadot miboy lai ela hahu ayin dekasiv lam'eela uman iu ayin mishpat. So it says the girls, banot sa'ada, it says that the women, they looked, they marched and they looked. So it says sa'ada, it should have said that sa'adot, it's plural. But what? It's talking about the one eye that's from above. And what is this? The eye of judgment. And this is the ayin sa'ada. This is the eye that walks, that whatever it is, steps. Upasat lemital banot letekunta. This is the eye from above that comes down to the feminine aspect and fixes it up. Hainu banot sa'ada velo banim. This is the men, women are walking and not the men. Okay, what's going on over here? What's happening? Hashem creates the world in such a way that this physical world has to be fixed up. The physical world has to make a request. This request from below to above, this is usually done by the Jewish people, but it can be done also by non-Jews. God listens to every prayer. This coming up of a prayer from below to above, this is called the elevation coming up from feminine aspect, from below to above. Below to above. There is a reaction, and the reaction comes from above to below. That's called the masculine action. Shashgacha animshachas al yedei eretz. That this is the hashgacha, this is God's observance or God's involvement, which is drawn down into the world by means of the arousal of the world from below to above. Hu nimshachu mislabish b'malachim anikrim banot. That this influence of God to fix the world, to make blessings, to make the world a good place, to forgive people, to make rain, to make healing, to make order, this is a blessing from God, and it comes down into the world through a system. Just like a human being has a nervous system, a digestive system, well, God also has a system. And this system brings from the highest levels of godliness down to this physical world. And the ones that finally receive it are called, these nerves, I want to call it, those are angels. There are angels that receive God's blessing and pass it down to the world. There are also angels that receive the prayers and bring them up. And so it says, these angels that receive the blessings, they are called nukvin. They are called feminine angels. V'zeu banot sa'ada. That's what it means in the Zohar when it talks about the women that step to see Joseph. The women are usually the aspect of Malchus. Yosef, is usually the aspect of Yesod. It's one aspect above. So it's talking about also the world coming from below to above. Shah Malchut so'edet ala banot ala ishur lirot ulhashgiach mase atachtonim. So it says sometimes God comes into the world and to observe what's going on in the physical world. Like we said before, the eyes, there are masculine eyes and feminine eyes. This is all part of what we call mamali ka'omim, how God fills the worlds. On this it says, Einav mishotatot. On this it says, God's eyes, they wander around the world feminine. This is how the world accepts, receives God's blessings. Receives. This is also another way, there's another aspect of this Malchut, and that is coming from below to above. So Malchut receives, and it also raises up. So it's like a person praying to God, right? Going from below to above. That's called Malchut. That's a feminine aspect, from below to above. And another aspect of feminine is to receive from what's from above to below. That's also receiving. That's called also the feminine aspect of, well, that's the Shekhinah. Shekhinah is less than feminine. Okay, Herschel, Lashon Nekeva, Shei Bechinet Malchut. This is the level of Malchut, of God's kingship. It is feminine, is the lowest aspect. It receives the blessings of God. It has nothing of its own. But on the other hand, it is the raising up of energy from this world to God, asking God for help. Shenikra Dina de Malchuta. This is called the judgment of the king. V'hu Allah alat hapagam al yedei amalachim. And this also raises up all of everything that's happening in the world, whether good or not good, also by means of these angels. Shebebechinet malchut v'hakelim de eser sfirot, by means of this aspect of malchut and the vessels of the 10 sfirot. The bechinet malchut haba elai, the aspect of God's rulership, which is the aspect of the physical world, how it comes to me, to Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is in the 10 sfirot of Atzilut. Okay, so what's going on? You with me, Herschel? God creates the world, but there's an interaction with the world. The world is not just static. It is very dynamic. And there's a dynamic relationship between us and the world, mainly because we have free will. And because we have free will, so therefore we can do good or we can do not good. We aspect of it. And our actions, good or not good, they have a reaction from God. So it ends up that we are creations of God, but we're also receivers from God, but also in a strange way, we affect God. All these three aspects are called receiving. Malchut. We receive God's blessing. We cry out to God. That's called, we're created by God. This is the lowest aspect. We're totally dependent on God, like the earth, Mother Earth. That's this aspect of feminine eyes. That's the feminine eyes. These are these angels that they receive blessings from God. They also carry our blessings from below to above. And all these things, because we have nothing of our own, that's the aspect of Malchut. On that it says, Erda Nav Ereh. On this, God says, I will go down and I will see. Al Yedei Midat HaChesed. By this aspect of kindness. God says, I will go down. Ukanoda Shazer Anpin. That this is God saying, I will go down. This is the masculine aspect. That the masculine aspect is the majority of, is kindness. Anpui, the Malchut, the Malka Nihirin. The face, shining face of the king. Shu Mashchatuv Einei Hashem Mishotatim. This is the masculine eyes of God, which are rounding the, which are, I say, observing the world, which are observing the world. This is called the masculine aspect of God. This is God's kindness coming into the world. Zachar, shehu bechinas duchrin. This is male, which is kindness. Ve'erek atzakata. Okay, this is a little bit almost the opposite of what we just finished learning. Before we learned that God was saying, I'm going to go down from my aspect of mercy, which is infinite. I'm going to go down into judgment, severe judgment. Do you remember we just learned that? Yeah. Okay, now it's saying a little bit different. Now it's saying the main, we'll see it's not. The main aspect of God's masculine aspect is kindness. Kindness coming from above to below. Just think about it, one instant. God creates the world all the time. That's pretty kind. It's pretty good, right? You can't have a better sign of, if you want to call it love, than that. They're just giving to a person, just giving him all the time, right? He's creating us. He's doing everything. So it says, God's eyes. This aspect of God from below to above, and the aspect of God that's contracting the world, and that the world needs God, has nothing of its own, has to receive God. This is the feminine aspect. That's called gevura. That's called, if you want to call it, lowness. Receiving, nothing of its own. That's the world. On the other hand, the aspect of God which is giving, that's called God's highness, His bigness, His kindness, how He's giving out. That's the aspect of God. That's what it means that God said, I am going to go down. I am going to go down means I'm going to bring my kindness down. Okay, Herschel. That maybe by means of my kindness, Yimsa lahem zechut, I will find some sort of a merit for them. Not like what we just finished learning in the previous paragraph. God said, I will go down, means I will go down from my infinite mercy, and I'm going to start judging them. Here it's saying, no, I'm going to go down and see that maybe I can find some sort of merit. In other words, God wanted Abraham to argue with him. He wanted Abraham to find some sort of a merit. Ukamavur, like it's explained in Edra Zutra. It's one of the books of the Zohar, one of the chapters of the Zohar. Taf Reish Tzadik Gimel, Ayam Beis. This level of God, which comes down into the world to observe by means of God's Einav Mishotatot, which are feminine eyes wandering around. This is feminine, hu b'chinet din, vashgacha. This is the aspect of God's severity and God's, what do you want to call it, His direction. Sha'al yedei b'chinet einei Hashem hem mishotatim hu b'chinet rachamim. But sha'al yedei b'chinet, that this is the this is the lower aspect of God. This is the judgment, and by means of that, the higher aspect of God comes and is merciful. In other words, what does it mean? By means of the severities and the lowness of this world, as people cry out to God, and then God answers. God answers then in a kind way to see maybe there's something He can do. So this physical world is very low, as we see, and this world has the ability to cry out. When we cry out from God, God reacts. So the crying out of this world from below, or the deeds and the actions of this world that go, so to speak, up to God, that have an effect, that's called feminine. That's the feminine eyes. And that God comes down to see, to fix the world, to make miracles, to do, that's called God's masculine eyes. Shmeshotatim. Good? Like it says, like it says in the Torah that there has to be a group of judges, and the judges, it says, they will judge and they will save. Shaftu, they will be severe, vehitzilu, and they will save. Eida shofetet ve'eida metzelet. And the judges, they decide if a person is guilty, and they decide if a person is innocent. Lafi shebekol davar yochol lilmod zechut v'chova. Because everything there is in the world, you can learn a reason why it should be there, and you can learn a reason why it should not be there. Everything you can judge positively or negatively. Everything. Al kain, Omer Zal. Therefore, the rabbis say, Paslina li letzibura midrabanan ledina dechaviv alai kagufe. Like one of the rabbis said, I can never ever judge a rabbi, another rabbi. Why? Because they are too dear to me. They are precious to me like my own body. Ve'ein adam rochov, lots when a person cannot see any bad in himself. And all these rabbis are like me. I can't, right? I treat them like they're my own self. Hare This is one of the rabbis said. Hari af al pi shehu chayav be'emet. In other words, even though that the person they're going to bring in front of me, right? I'm a big rabbi, and I'm a big Torah scholar, and there's going to bring another Torah scholar in front of me, and I see that the person is guilty. Eino roa alav chova. Suddenly I realize, no, what I saw was a mistake. This person is really innocent. I all of a sudden start to learn all sorts of these excuses for him. Shamach matkiru v'dat v'chavivus motze mokom lilmod zechut. Because I like this other person so much, as therefore he's just like me, therefore I find merit. Which is not the case somebody that I don't know, and he's not dear to me kol kach so much. Haya melamed chova. It could be that I'll find him guilty. Like God said in the beginning, what did he say? That the thoughts of man are bad all the time. Very interesting. When God wanted to destroy the world with Noah, with a flood, so he said, I made a big mistake on making man. Man, it was a big mistake to make him. His thoughts are bad all day. Right? It's a defective product. I'm recalling all the creation, recalling the whole thing. The whole thing is just a big mess. Their thoughts are bad from the whole day. And then afterwards, after the flood, so God said, I'm not going to destroy people anymore. Poor guys, what can they do? Their thoughts are bad the whole day. Exactly the same thing, right? In other words, I created them with this defect. I can't blame them. I can't blame them. I have to let them go. First of all, it was a reason for him to destroy the world. And the same exact thing that people think bad the whole day became a reason to let them go, have mercy on them. What can I do? I created them with a defect. I can't be angry with them. Al yedei zeh nimshach vayomer Hashem emche et adam. By means, first of all, he said, people think bad the whole day. By means of this, he said, I'm going to wipe everybody out. Haynu machmas eshe yetzer machshavat libo rak ra nimshach l'mod chova. God said, I'm going to destroy them. Afterwards, in Parshas Noach, he says, this is right at the end of before he made the flood, right in the end of Parshas Bereshis. It says, vayomer Hashem al libo lo osiv l'kalel lo et adam. I can't do this anymore. I can't curse them anymore. It says a person's heart, his Yetzer Hora, is working from the time he's a child. In other words, a person's thinking bad the whole day. I have to have mercy on him. Hari shemisivora zu atzmo, from the same exact principle. Sheyetzer lev adam ra, that a person has a bad Yetzer Hora that he's controlled by. Motzel lilmod zechut. God found that he could bring merit. Shelo yasif lakalel et adam ba'avur adam. He cannot curse the earth because of men. He can't curse people. He won't destroy people. That by means that it said that God smelled the pleasant smell of the offering that Noach made. Shebekorban sheikriv Noach. Lahamshich, this revealed the revelation of God's kindness to learn merit. So what do we see over here? That there's two aspects of God. Clearly, sometimes God can be very kind, and sometimes God, for the exact same reason, can be very, very severe. So sometimes for the same reason that God can be angry, that same reason can make him have mercy. This is the difference between the two types of, we said, observance, of how God observes the world. On one hand, we say that God knows everything automatically. On the other hand, we say that no, that God does not know, he has to come down. V'zeu perish erdana. That's what it means. God says, I will come down. What does it mean, I will come down? Okay, we said, there's sometimes God's eyes are wandering around the world to see. That's in a masculine way. That's kind. Sometimes God's eyes are wandering around. That's in a feminine way. That's severe. That's severe. So we say, okay, God decides which one. When he with the what's called masculine aspect, it's kind. And with the feminine aspect, it's more severe and limited. That's what it means that God said, I'm going to go down. This, God said, I am going to go down and see if the screaming is in the Torah, it's feminine tense, sa'aka. This is the Gevuros, and what's called Or Choser, a returning light from below. This is the feminine aspect. Therefore, God said, I'm going to go down. Yerida, I'm going to go down from Milamayla Lamata, from above to below. This is the level, what's called Or Yosher, straight light. Shu B'chinas Chesed, this is God's kindness. Lashgiach b'midas chesed lilmod zechut, to try to learn some sort of a merit on these people. Maybe I can bring them back to do good. I won't have to destroy them. Ve'erek etza'akata bo alai asu. It says, I will see if, like the screaming that comes to me, if it's really guilty, then I will do. Hainu im avonom gadol, if their sin is too great to bear. Ad shegam al pi chesed, no matter how much kindness I want to apply to them, asu, I'm going to have to do. Hainu im avonam gadol min so. I'm sorry, kokach al pi chesed lo yachol limso zechut as kala. Then I'm going to have to destroy them. V'im lo, but if not, if their sin, if I can find some sort of a redeeming factor in their actions, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, Perush, ulai al chesed, maybe by means of this kindness that I'm going to come down and try to be kind to these people of Sodom and Gomorrah, yochalil modzechus, I can learn merit. I can learn merit, right? Like they have now in the court systems in America, right? There used to be a person who says, listen, this guy, he's been a thief and a murderer since he was 10 years old. He murdered, he tell people, that's right, Your Honor, I killed all these people, and I'll do it again if you let me out. So the judge, there's the prosecutor and there's the defendant. So the prosecutor says, you got to take this guy off the streets. I mean, he's just like an animal. And another person, the accuser said, the defendant, he says, Your Honor, you can see that this young man thinks he's an animal, but he's not an animal. He was brought up in the worst conditions. If we can just reveal the humanness in him, then he'll change, right? Then he'll change. He's just, how do you say, programmed wrong. We can fix him up. You have to have mercy on him. Poor guy, poor kid. From the time he was young, he was doing these terrible crimes. It means he doesn't know any better. Let's teach him something better. Right? Right? Maybe we'll put him in jail. We'll do a lobotomy on him. Who knows what? But they'll fix him up.
Can't let him on the streets.
Huh?
Can't let him back on the streets.
No, and then they put him back on the streets. In Israel, they give him streets. They give him whole towns. Guy's a murderer. Give him a whole town, and we'll see. We'll show him we trust him.
And a pension. That's the Palestinian.
Right. They come with this. We can't make any rockets. We don't have any. Give them. Right. We don't have enough electrical wires to make rockets. Give them electrical wires. Teach them. Right. You guys have rockets. We don't have rockets. Why? And that's what. Okay, let's go. So sometimes there can be learning merit for the same exact reason that you learn to be severe. That's what it means. God said, I will go down. I will go down with my aspect of kindness. I'm going to be unusually kind to these people. That I'm creating them, that's kind. But now I hear that they're doing all these terrible sins and killing people and torturing people. I'm going to go down to find out maybe there's some way I can fix them up. That's what it said in the Midrash. God said, I will go down from, that what it says in the Midrash, I will go down from my mercy to my severity. That's what we just learned previously, right? We learned yesterday. 2 days yesterday. Ubezoar, but in the Zohar, Daf Kuf Hey Amud Beis, now means I will go down from my mercy to my severity. Hey, there's another place that it says it also in the Zohar. That's what we learned yesterday. Rotze Lomar, what does it mean? It doesn't mean I will go down, I will leave my mercy, that's what we did learn yesterday. It means I will go down from my mercy and bring that mercy in Mimur Zarachim to severity, and I will see. It's something like, we make Motzi Shabbos, we make Havdalah. What does Havdalah mean? Havdalah means, simple, Havdalah means Shabbos is finished, no more Shabbos. Now we're going into the weekday, forget about Shabbos. He says, yeah, really, that's really what it means. Why do you make a blessing? Well, make a blessing. Just say, I'm dividing. Why make a blessing? You make a blessing on a cup. I'm separating. It's such a happy thing. And I'm separating from Shabbos to... He says, no, the purpose really, Havdalah means that now we're going into the weekdays. I have to bring Shabbos into the weekday. That's the blessing. The blessing is, Havdalah means now we're going into a different situation. True, it's going into a tough world. We're going to have 6 days where it's going to be severe. Havdalah is to draw godliness into these days. The same thing he says here. God says, I'm going to go down from my aspect of mercy to my aspect of severity and bring mercy into severity. Huh? V'hinei, Rashi says in the Chumash, Erda now, he says, we have to learn from here that the Dayanim, that judges, shalo yifsuku dini nefashos el bariya, means if God came down to see, so it's the same thing with the judges have to have, either they have to see the crime or bring somebody in that did actually see the crime. The Isa b'Tikkun Zohar, it says in Tikkun Zohar, Ve'inan as a sphere and Inan Azlan Kassidron. We see this every Erev Shabbos. It says that there are 10 sphirot of God, and they have an order to them. One side is long, one side is short, and one side is in the middle. What does it mean? The 10 sphirot are divided into three pillars, 3 aspects, 3 lines. Kava Yamin, there's the kindness side on the right. That's Chesed, Chachma, Chesed, and Netzach. That's called Chad Arich. That's the long side because it's kindness, and kindness is drawn down very, very low. It's drawn down to mitpashet yoter and it spreads out more. Therefore, gamilat chasadim. Therefore, it says that deeds of kindness are whether for both poor and the rich. In other words, kindness spreads down more than mercy does. Shal ashir ein shayach rachmanos. A rich person, you haven't got mercy on a rich person, but you can do kindness to a rich person. Ki'im ala ani. Mercy is only relevant to people that are poor or they're lacking or they're sick, have mercy. But kindness is for everybody. You can do kindness, right? You're giving out $100 bills in the streets, just giving. Kindness is just giving, right? Giving to people without any restraint, that's for everybody. So that's what's called the long pillar. That's this aspect of God that just gives. Sometimes, as we know, can be not good. God can also give and create bad things. Then there's the left side. Okay, Urshel. Kava small, that's Bina, Gvura, and Hod. That's called the short side. She'ena nimshach, except the people that are really, really deserving. But Kav Emtsoi, but the middle pillar, which that's mainly mercy and balanced Tiferes beauty. Excuse me. It's called Benoni. This is called the middle-sized line. Shemarachem al mi shenofel rachmanut. That you have mercy on people that is relevant to them having mercy. Right? Sometimes there can be a poor person that he deserves to be poor. Right? You have a job? No. You ever have a job? Nah. I don't. I just beg. You have a wife and kids. How do you have a wife and kids? I promised her I would provide for her and the kids, and I just, I beg. That's what I do. Give me money. You see, a person like that, you don't want to work. You want to just beg your whole life. Right? A person like that, get away from me. But for mercy, you have mercy on the person. You say, wow, a person that thinks like that, he really deserves mercy. This guy, he's really messed up. I mean, he's messing himself up. He's a victim of his own nature. He can't run away from that. Have mercy on him. So mercy. That's called the middle pillar. Hine, yesh ria v'shmiya. There is what we call seeing and what we call hearing. We said a judge cannot judge unless he sees. Haria, seeing, nimshach from chachma, kava yamin. Shmiya is drawn down from bina, understanding. Hearing, that's from the left side. Why? Because hearing is much less of a revelation than seeing is. When you see something, you know for sure it's there. When you hear about something, you're not really sure that it's there. V'noda me'inyan Ruvain v'Shimon. It's known from Ruvain, was that seeing, and Shimon is hearing, Shemiah. Lochen, therefore, a Riyah is from above to below. Seeing is the person seeing, he sees something lower than him. And Shemiah is from below to above. Usually hearing, you can understand, you hear things that are from below to above, or that are above you. You hear things that you don't understand. When you see something, you see it, right? You can see things and grasp things that you don't understand what they are. And afterwards, you can analyze what you see. You can analyze what you see. Take a picture, right? And they analyze the picture, right? The picture captures the whole thing, and then they analyze the picture. What is it? See this picture, see this thing over there? Hearing is not so. Hearing, you hear an idea, you don't really grasp anything. You don't really grasp anything. Little by little, you have to understand what's there. It's not like seeing, the whole picture is there. When you hear, you only hear a little tiny bit, right? You hear, the person tells you an idea, right? You understand a little bit of the idea. Then you have to work on it. So hearing is very concentrated, and seeing is very revealed. That's why it says a person that he can't see, he's like he's dead. A person that he can't hear is not considered to be dead. A person that can't hear. Mimata l'mayla, she'aotiot mitalim u'nichnasim la'ozen. Letters go up and they enter the ear of the person who hears. Ulazeh gam kein ariya nishpelet. And for this, seeing goes down below even more from hearing. A person that sees something, you can see even something, a rock you can see. Mashein kein shmiya, which is not the case. Hearing, you can only hear a person or a person, something that's a little bit orderly, intelligent. Ki ariya hi mebechinas chad arich, because seeing comes from the long side, and that's the side of kindness. Kedua sheyesod abba arich, like it says that this aspect of chachma, which is on the right side, comes very low. That's what it means, erda. That's what it means. God says, I will go down and I will see. What does it mean, I will see? I will apply my long side, my sign of kindness. The God said, I hear the sound that's coming from below. This is gavura, severity. That's understanding. Therefore, it comes from below to above. And this is what's called the left side. But God said, nevertheless, even though I hear from the left side severity, and I have reason to suppose I should be severe, but erda now, I will go down and see. I will apply this aspect of kindness. So that's how the Rebbe explains what we said before. Yesterday we explained that God said, I'm going down from my aspect of mercy, and I'm going down to severity, where I won't apply my mercy at all. I've left it. And now the Rebbe is saying, no, but if you look according to the Zohar, according to the Arizal, it says a little bit differently. That God, yes, came down from his severity, from his kindness, but he brought this kindness, this mercy, he brought it down into the physical world. That's what he says, I will come down and I will see, bring my kindness into the world and see if I can fix them up. And that's why he allowed Abraham to argue with him, even though the argument wasn't successful. What can we learn from this? We can learn from this that God reacts to what we do. God is not as impersonal as some people would like to make him. God is not as far away as people would like him to be. In fact, God is infinitely, infinitely further than any of these people can possibly imagine that God is. But because of that farness, it enables him to do things that a normal faraway person would not be able to do, right? The king is far from his people. The king doesn't come down to each and every person and see what's going on, right? House to house calls. God makes house to house calls, and he does it in a merciful way. So, and we see that there's people, God enlivens the whole world, and we see that there's evil people that continue to exist. Right? How do they? Somehow or other, in some strange way, this is from God's kindness, because he's giving them life for free. So God is always giving chances, and he's always giving opportunities. And that's what it means, even for this evil generation of Sodom and Gomorrah, that their favorite pastime was torturing people and doing the most cruel, bringing pain in the most incredible ways. Nevertheless, God had some way, he had mercy, or he tried to find at least mercy on them. That's one of the reasons he sent Abraham, was to try to do it. So we should know from this, number one, there's always a chance. Number two, always try to find something good in everyone, because God is doing it. He's finding something good in everybody. And number three is that we should think about ourselves, that our whole existence depends on God's kindness. That he's not to think that we're superior to anybody else. It all depends on God's kindness, and we should do the utmost we can to make this kindness of Hashem revealed in the world.